Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black British Parent Podcast. And today we have a phenomenal guest, Neil Mayers. How you doing?
I'm good.
I said it right this time.
Yeah.
Please, for anyone of our listeners who don't know who you are and what you do, please can you let us know? Let them know.
An old school teacher. That's pretty much sums up everything. So, been teaching over about 20 years, and now I'm like an education consultant. Produce some resources to support Black students, and do talks, train teachers, advise senior leadership teams, school governors, just school stuff.
Okay, so how did you get into teaching?
Yeah, that was an accident.
You
Accidentally became a teacher. Because if you'd have asked me, do I want to become a teacher, I'd have looked like you're nuts.
So what did you want to be?
Civil engineer. But that was because I didn't know enough about it. So when I was at school, we used to have people who used to come into schools who were just careers advisors and tell you, or ask you, what you're interested in, and then give you all that advice. But then they started taking the money out of that. So those people couldn't come in. And so then they started paying people in the school to do it. So they paid some biology teacher in our school to do that. So they must have got a couple of extra grand or something for the year, and then they had to do that. She told all the Black students to go into social work. And it was only after a while when we was like, what'd she tell you, that we figured out, wait, she's telling all the Black people to do social work. Now, not much has changed. Now they tell all the Black students to do health and social care. So by the time I got to my interview, me being the confrontational person I am, she said, so what are you interested in being in? I said, I come through choreographer. And she looked at me like, yeah, I already knew you was going to say something stupid. So she just put this A to Z of careers and said, look at that, come back to me when you've decided what you want to do. Like, that was the end of my interview. So I just went through all of the things, and civil engineering was like kind of designing football stadiums, bridges, tunnels, roads. And I'm not a good drawer, but I can draw when I'm using equipment. Sounded perfect to me. So much so that I got sponsored to do my degree in it. But after I did 1 year of it, I thought, okay, that was just to get rid of the idiots who don't really belong here. The second year was worse than the first year. And I was like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be doing this at all. And then I did some work with the people who sponsored me. And I was like, yeah, we need to have a talk. Because when this degree's finished, I'm not going anywhere near this subject. So yeah, that was, but the degree had so much maths in it. We were doing the same maths as the people who were doing a maths degree for 2 years. So my maths levels were quite high. So when I finished, I was literally trying to figure out what should I do with myself. Somehow fell into a African World Studies course with the legendary Femi Biko, who taught Robin Walker. And then, yeah, that was just, everything just cleared away. It was like I was living in fog and didn't even know. And thought, every child needs to know this or have this experience. If I'd have had this experience and knew this knowledge, I'd be a completely different person. So my mindset was, how do I get into a school so I can teach children this? And I wasn't going to teach history because it was all Victorians and Tudors and all that kind of stuff. And then Black history was 2 weeks in slavery in year 9. So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. My maths was kind of off the chart. So I thought, I'll teach maths and I'll do everything Black history on the side. So the day that I decided, that was a Friday. And then I was on the phone on a Friday morning calling all universities. And this was October. So they said, our course have already started. So they were saying, we'll sign you up for next year. And I was like, no, I need to start now. Monday called Greenwich University. They said, well, you can come in for an interview, even though we'll start next year, you can come in for an interview. I must have done so well in the interview. They said, your lecturer is over there if you want to start right now. So I went in my suit and just went straight in.
Wow.
So Friday I decided, and Tuesday I was on the course. And
Gosh.
Then, yeah, that was that.
You said something about like if you knew that information, that history information when you was a child. What was it like for you in school? What kind of student would you say you were?
Just my mouth was just running 24/7, just non-stop. I was just there to joke, catch jokes. But I was gonna say I had like past tense, but I have a very strict mum, and so all the teacher needed to keep me in line was, do you want me to call you home? And I was like, no, I'll be good. Like, and that was the end of that. So, but I was in detention every day for just minor, constant talking or whatever. So to the point where I'd show up for detentions and they'd be like, you don't have a detention today. I'd be like, oh, okay. All right, I'll go home then. Because I'm just used to being in detention. So yeah, just running my mouth and running jokes and cussing people. And just, yeah, I thought that's what you're there for.
So you mentioned about teaching, getting into teaching after your first African World Studies course, right? What was it about this course that made you feel that Black children need to know the information that you'd...
Just being told the truth. Just having everything just make sense. And yeah, I spent the whole course, might be exaggerating, I spent a lot of the course just saying, no way. For real? You can't be serious. Is that true? And then just asking other people, for real, is it? Like, and that was it. Like, for an entire year. So I did the course. I think I did the course twice because I wasted the first year just saying, I don't believe it. Like, that can't be true. Like, literally everything about your history has been manipulated to give you a sense of worthlessness and unimportance. And when you find out that, nah, you did that. No, you're responsible for that. No, like, you were doing that time ago before they started doing that. And just like, what? And because it's not just an African history course, which a lot of people don't get, you're doing the sociology, you're doing the politics, you're doing the art, you're doing the music, you're doing the media, and me loving film so much, and then going through loads of films. So that's one of the first things I'll tell, students, like, what film have you just watched? And then I say, did you notice how, and they're like, no way. And they go back and watch it and they come back the next day. It's like, all of those things you said was true, I don't believe it. So even, what's the last one that come out? Do you know what? Let's not go there. Otherwise, we just waste time.
I'm curious now.
The one that was, and it was weird because it was there was 2 times that this happened where Femi Biko played a music clip, and it was jazz, and I listened to jazz. I got into jazz from listening to James Brown, so he played that, and he said, "What was that track about?" And everyone was saying, "Don't know, it was just noise to me." And I was like, "How did you not hear?" And so he asked me, and I said, "That was about someone getting in trouble and being caught." And he was like, "Yeah, actually, the title of that track was da-da." And I was like, "How did anybody else not hear that?" Like the music was saying that, like, very clearly. Femi Biko used to play the saxophone with Courtney Pine. So yeah, that was his thing. And he was kind of shocked that nobody else was hearing it. I was shocked that no one else was hearing it. And then the same thing with, there was like a film, a children's film called Rio, which is about some blue parrot or something like that. And I remember watching it, speaking to some people afterwards, and they said, "Oh, that's a really good film." And I was like, "Rio?" And they're like, "Yeah, the film about the blue parrot." And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "But every black person in that film was a thief." And they're like, "Huh?" I was like, "Did you not watch it?" And I was like, and the end of the story is like the happy ending is that the black child who's not a thief or who stops being a thief gets adopted by a white family.
Yeah.
In Brazil. I was like, how is that? You didn't see the same film I saw. And so, yeah, when you've got that kind of stuff going on in your head, and then you have Femi Biko break it down and Robin Walker break it down, and you're just like, that makes so much, I understand now. I understand why you're doing that. Or I understand why that had to be done. And yeah, so it's just, yeah, it was life-changing.
So how did, like, your personality and your experience as students shape, like, your teaching style, the way that you teach now?
I think it was just like, don't think you're going to get away with being like me. That's pretty much all it was. It's like, I can see what you're thinking, like, but I was that teacher that I suppose that students were just, yeah, because you got teachers who, like, they've never been around black people before. You got teachers who, they just hate children. You're like, why are you even in this profession? Mm-hmm. You got everything that you've got in society, you've got as teachers. So I'd already kind of been there with the crew who make noise or get in trouble or start this or, violence, smoking, drug, whatever it is. Like, I've been in there and seen all of those characters before. So as soon as I see you acting in a certain way, I was like, oh, you're one of those. Okay, well, let's just stop that right now. Mm. So yeah. Plus, I was the teacher that would show up at your yard if he was getting on my nerves, which that didn't. that just didn't make sense to some students.
I can only imagine how you turn up to children's yards.
Yeah, just that was it. You know, the first time it happened, or the first time, I'm saying it like I wasn't involved. The first time I did it, it was just because I told a student, take off your headphones, and I was new to the class, so there was a boy who just came and sat. He came and sat in the back of the class and put his earphones on, and I looked at the rest of the class, and all of them were just like, he don't work. He just listen to his. And I was like, yeah, but this is my class. Like, I don't get it. Like, I can't let that go. So I was like, take off your headphones. And he looked at me, and then he went back down to his books, and I was like, yeah, I can't punch him because that's not professional. But he's got to pay. Like, that's all I was thinking. I was like, you can't get away with that. You're looking me in my eye.
Doorstep.
You're looking at me in my eye and basically saying, no, that can't run. So yeah, like, it's, you know, it's a school. So everybody's data's on the computer. Everyone's data's on the system. So I was like, who's this guy? Who's this guy, Raphael? Like, I need to know. And I was like, okay, so he lives there. All right. Okay, let's go. So I was there, knock on his door, and I had preconceptions about, oh, single parent family, or someone's just, 5 children in the place, no one's paying attention to him, doesn't get enough attention, blah, blah. Knock on the door, mum opens the door. Beautiful place. And I was like, okay, yeah, can I help you? Yeah, I'm Raphael's maths teacher. She's like, oh, come in. Yo, I've never had a teacher come, whatever. I was like, yeah, come and sit down. Raphael, come downstairs. So Raphael comes bopping down the stairs, and then he sees me, and his blood stopped flowing. Like, just like, what's going on? Like, why is, like, I've only met this guy once and now he's in my yard. Who's this guy? So, yeah, your maths teacher's here to see you. Go call your dad. I'm like, Dad's here too. I was like, this guy's living in a, life of luxury. Like, his house is way better than any house I've lived in. And he was called and he came down immediately. So there's no behavior issues in this house. I was like, oh, so you're schizophrenic. Like, you're one of those, you know what I mean? Because everyone does it.
Yeah.
Every child does that. Every child is a schizophrenic to some level. If you've been to secondary school, you might have a strict teacher that lesson, and then you fix your tie, whatever, make sure everything's whatever. And then you've got a supply teacher next lesson, you act crazy. Then you've got like another teacher. You just, it's like liquid. You
how
feel
far you can push the boundaries.
You know exactly how to behave for different people. So you might be 5 different characters in a day. So I was like, oh, so you know how to behave. Oh, you know how to listen. Oh, you just choose not to
listen to you.
Right. So I was like, you never guess what your son did to me in the lesson, whatever. So, and so he's got to sit there and listen. And so him and his mum and his dad, it's like, what on earth? No way. And why did you do that? He doesn't want to speak anymore. So then the next lesson, he comes in, sits at the back, puts his headphones in. So I was like, you've got to decide now between all of your friends and me, because all your friends know that you behave like this. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, should I fix up for them or should I fix up for the teacher? Yeah. So I look at him and I was like, you need to take off your headphones. And he looks at me and he's like, and I could see him thinking about it, and he's like, yeah, this ain't worth it. This ain't worth it. So he took them off. And then I told the class, your work is kind of on the board. Like, I've given you step-by-steps of how to kind of take care of yourself. I've got to go and sit with him and catch him up from everything that he missed last lesson. So all of the class are just like, because they've never seen him work before. Yeah. So I'm like, get to work. And so now they're like, wait, you're the guy who's in one lesson made this guy who never works work. So now you're telling us to work. We better get to work, because I don't want whatever you did to him to be done to me. So I'm just going to get
They don't even know what you did to him.
Right. So, and then, because children are children, they like to exaggerate stories. So that just kind of grew. He's the person who's going to show up at your yard. He's the person who da-da-da-da.
Stop it.
And so, yeah, then I just played into the character. And then all the teachers helped join in to play that character. Said, like, do you want me to call Mr. Mayers? No, it's all good.
No way.
So, and I'm a joker character. So I would be joking and laughing in the staff room. And they'll be like, okay, listen. All right. Serious. All right, let's go. And then have to do that. So there's students who've like, I've never smiled at them for 5 years. They don't even know I know how to smile. And I'm just having to play this role. It was quite hilarious. And then the teachers are watching me do this, like, and obviously children are funny. Like sometimes they'll crack a joke and you're facing the board and you're cracking up. And you're like, all right, you need to get back to work. Like that. Meanwhile, you're like, so yeah.
That's crazy.
Yes.
How many schools have you worked in?
From being a consultant, just all over the place. But most of the time I spent was in Crofton School, which is now Prendergast Ladywell School in Brockley, Crofton Park area, South.
Okay,
area. And then I became a consultant for the Harris Academies, and I was mainly in Harris Academy Beckenham, Harris Academy Peckham, and my first one was in Harris Academy South Norwood.
So that would mean like what, 2010 onwards, or before then, maybe?
I don't even remember, to be honest. So it's all a blur. It's all a blur. The reason I started that is because I had the person who hired me for my first job in Crofton School. She had asked me when I was on my teacher training, would you start here in September? And I was like, there's not really enough black students here for me. I'm not really feeling this school. I wanted to be in a school. It was called the nickname of it was Billy Biro. It's William Penn. But so I wanted to go there, and I had done my teaching. I'd done some teaching practice there, and I'd asked them, can I work in there? They said, we'd take you in a minute, but this school's closing down. I was like, damn. So at the time when that lady asked me, who was the head of maths at the time, she said, we'd like you to start here. And I was like, I want to go where the black students are, and there's just not that many. It's like 30%. It's a fair amount. I was like, and she was like, you don't even have to work here full time. You can work here 4 days a week. And I was like, She was like, 3 days a week. I was like, and I didn't have any other jobs. So I was like, I'll do 3 days a week for like a term, and then I'll find something better. And then I was there for like 10 years.
Gosh.
But I mean, I did 2 years. I did 2 years or 3 years. And then I had the opportunity to go and teach in America. And obviously growing up watching a lot of American programs, and I was like, I want to go and teach in the hardest. I want to go New York, where they got like metal detectors on the doors, there's guns and knives and all that. So I want to see how good I am. I want to go there. But visa restrictions stopped me being able to go there. So I ended up going to Atlanta, and just had a great time. But that whole strict thing didn't work. Didn't work over there. Like on the first day, just didn't work. It's not appropriate. Over there, it was like, Atlanta's like a small town. No, it's full of people with a small town mentality. Like, if I see you, I'm going to say hello because I've just got this expectation I'll see you again. But it's in a big city. So I came in with a whole strict face, and I remember some 16 or 17-year-old student who was like 6'5". It was like, and built. Like, he said, "What's up, Mr. Mayor?" I said, "Morning." And he's like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, because I'm giving a whole serious face. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" So he puts his arm around me like I'm like a little brother, sister. He's like, "You okay, man?" He's like, "You got problems at home?" And I burst out laughing. I was like, "No, I'm good. And I just knew that whole strict thing is just not going to work here. It's not appropriate. So yeah, it was good because I could relax and just be myself. But yeah, it was cool.
That's crazy.
Ended up doing 2 years there.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a year sabbatical, but I was just having too much of a good time.
What made you want to work in schools where there's predominantly black children?
I'm there for my family. Like, my whole mentality was, I'm here to help black students. If I help white students and Turkish students and Vietnamese students as well, no problem. But like, I know who my audience is. Like, I know who I'm here for. So it was always about, what can I do to support them? I'm going to give, an exceptional level to everybody, but I'm going over and above for every black student I meet.
Why do you think that's necessary?
Because we're targeted is not the right word, because then it makes out like the education system was designed to beat the crap out of black students, which it wasn't. It just wasn't designed for anybody. It's just a crap system. So, and it just so happens that when you add in institutional racism, we just end up at the bottom of the pile. So my attitude was like, because I mean, when we was doing the course, and by then I think I'd done the course like 3 times. I think I'd done it twice with Femi Biko. I think I'd done it once with Robin Walker. And a book came out in 1971, which was called How the West Indian Child is Made Educationally.
I've got that book. Yeah.
And that's in 1971.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why am I arriving in 2000 and we're still talking about the exact same thing, but it's a bit worse?
And they came up with a next book telling it like it is, I think. Speaking about that one.
That was Diane Abbott, who, because she did the London Schools and the Black Child Conference, she put that book at the beginning of her book to basically then say, we're still kind of fighting the fight. So yeah, there hadn't been much that had changed. So yeah, with what I knew, I was like, okay, I can solve a lot of the problems just by making sure that you treat the system appropriately. Then there's the institutional racism. That's like a whole different kettle of fish. So yeah, my mentality was always, I got to support the black students. And the first thing was trying to explain to black parents, you don't understand what you're dealing with. Like whatever it is that you thought schools were, like that's not what it is. And so I think I'd ask the students, like use an analogy, like what's the point of a bank? And they'd say to keep your money safe. And I was like, oh, so you think it's a service? And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, no, it's the people who open banks are open it because it's a great way to make money. And it's the same thing to do with schools. Like schools are a great way to make money. Like the whole Harris Academy Federation is just because Lord Harris, now he's Lord, he used to run Carpetright and people stopped buying, everyone started doing hardwood floors. So he was like, I need a new way to make money. He was like, there's loads of money in schools, so I'll make out like it's an altruistic thing, but this is about getting paid. So Harris Academy Peckham, that was his first one. And he's been getting paid. He's been opening them up left, right, and center.
That is crazy. I knew that it was a businessman. I didn't realize it was a guy from Carpetright. That's
selling carpets.
crazy.
The only thing worse than that
And
would
then
be like a used car
the
salesman.
reasons why as well. That's wild.
Right. And then on top of that, when it's like, when you understand like what the whole, I'm saying like too much, the whole purpose, like just the word educate, like that comes from the Latin educare or educere, and educere means to bring out. The process is this way, but every school everywhere is this way. It's about we've got knowledge and we're going to put that into you.
Yeah. What you can retain and remember.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on exam day.
Yeah.
And then, especially for maths, like you're never going to use it again in your life. So it's almost pointless. So you're like, wait there, how can what we're doing be the opposite of what it's supposed to do? The opposite. It's not even if it's like, if I ask for a pen and you give me a pencil, I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, it's not what I asked for, but I can write with it. But if you ask for a pencil and you give me an eraser, I'm just like, why are you doing the opposite of what this is useless. Like, I'll dash it back in your head. This is useless. So we've got a school system which is the opposite, doing the opposite of what it's supposed to do, which then when you hear people talking about, we need to make some changes, we need to do some tweaks, we need to do some reforms, you're like, nah, that doesn't make sense. Like, you don't tweak something which is doing, like, you just need to bin it.
And start again.
You get me? Like, if it was food, you know what I mean? Like, food is supposed to give you nutrients and blah, blah. The opposite of food is waste. So if I took a dump, put it on a plate and put it in front of you, you're not going to eat it. If I put decorations and put some salad around it and some potatoes, you can be like, it doesn't matter what you do to this. I'm not eating that. Do you understand? This doesn't work.
I've got this thought in my head that I don't want no more. Thank you.
Sorry.
Neil.
But people need to understand, like, I took it in the education terms.
I hear you.
And they're like, yeah. If I
but
put
when
it
you
in
put
terms,
it like that, then you're going to,
it doesn't matter what you do to this. It's a turd. Like, it's not supposed to be in my system. I'm not supposed to have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
You can't tweak it, adjust it, add some tomatoes, add some basil. It don't matter what you do. Start again. Do you know what I mean?
It's quite ironic to hear, I don't know if that's the right word, to hear a math teacher say that maths is useless.
90% of it is like, but then that tells you about what you're getting. It tells you about what the purpose of it was. I mean, you can go back into the history and then find out that the whole system that we have now was kind of based on the Prussian model. And that was because...
What's the Prussian model, please?
Prussia, we're talking about the area that used to be kind of East Germany in the 1800s, late 1800s. So, and the whole reason why they came up with this particular school system, which we're pretty much doing the same now, was because they had just lost the war and they were trying to explain why they lost the war. And they decided the reason why we lost the war is because we had too many individuals soldiers thinking we can do this and we can do that. We need everybody to just think the same and do as they're told. And there's too many individuals, too much free thinking going on, and that just can't work. So we need a school system which trains everybody to just get rid of any kind of individuality that you may have and just think and act the exact same way. That's what we're aiming for. Like, we're literally trying to remove your personality from the individual so that you can follow orders when you go in the army, you can follow instructions and do tasks when we put you into a factory, which is why schools still have desks in rows. They still have factory bells to tell you it's time to do the next thing.
It's a bit like the prison system.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a model that schools are based on right now. So you're like, if you understand that, then it allows you to understand what it is that they want from you. So the chatty person that comes into a class, if you're on the mentality of, I've got to remove all of your personality, I've got to get you to sit down at that desk, shut up, don't talk, don't answer back, then that chatty person, they end up getting detentions, they end up getting excluded and blah, blah, and that kind of thing. If you're of the mentality of, I'm supposed to bring out that character that you have, that chatty character, then I put you at the front of the class. I get you to teach my class. I get you to go around helping people. I use all of that to, then I start thinking about the careers that your chattiness will be. So a salesperson or a solicitor or TV show or what you're doing, like that, I've got to put that to good use so that you can make money from that and support your family. Because I'm doing this, I'm not trying to do this.
Yeah.
So your whole mentality is changed depending on who you meet and what your understanding of what your role is for each of those children.
Hey family, we hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to stay up to date with all things Black British Parent, we've got the perfect way for you to do just that. Join our mailing list and be the first to know about new episodes, exciting news and upcoming events. It's super easy to sign up. Just head over to our website and into your email. Don't miss out on the latest from Black British Parent. Join our community today. Now, back to the show.
Very true. Very much needed. So you kind of self-labeled yourself as a strict teacher.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? I'm a lazy person. I need the shortest distance from here to here. And I saw those teachers who were trying to be children's friends, and I was like, yeah, that's long. Like, you just need to do as I'm telling you. End of story. And so there was only one option. I was like, you need to be the strict teacher where I don't have to have those conversations. So
how did you balance the strictness of being approachable and respected by your students and your parents of the students?
I was never approachable. Never. No child came to me with their problems.
Even if you were strict though, they still liked you and still did the work.
They were afraid of me.
Okay.
They were afraid of me.
Stand corrected.
That's it, yeah. They were just like, I don't want any drama from this guy. Like, and I would tell the students, I was like, if you're going to say something, like, make sure it's the answer to my question, or make sure it's got something to do with what you're learning, because you don't want me to put all my attention on you, because I'm going to stop the lesson and find out what it is that you're doing. Like, and you don't want that kind of attention. It's like, why are you talking about football in my lesson? Are you trying to say that what I'm saying is not important? You're trying to say that nobody else needs to learn because you want to interrupt them? Like, you're the most important person in this class. Is that what you're saying? You don't want to have that conversation with me in front of 30 people.
Yeah.
You're going to lose, number one, and I'm not going to be nice. I'm not going to be nice about it. And then at the end of it, it's going to be like, all the time that you wasted with me having to say all of this stuff, you're making it up at the end of the day. So this took me 6 minutes to talk, so I'm tripling that.
Gosh.
I'm tripling that. You got 18 minutes after school just for talking about football in my... Who do you think you are to be talking about football in my class when I'm trying to get you through your GCSEs? I'm trying to help you and you're stopping me. Is that even logical?
It's a man about being approachable. I weren't approachable at all. That we talking about. Fair enough. Okay, so how was you able to adapt your teaching style for the different needs of your students? Because we have various different learning, special educational needs, etc.
Yeah. You know what I found out was funny? Asperger's students and autistic students, they loved me because they have trouble with social cues and reading people's expressions and what they mean and having to translate that. I only had one expression. And the ADHD students, or the so-called ADHD students, the ones who were always busy and always causing trouble, whatever, they're just going to be the loudest in the room. They'll be the busiest in the room. They'll be the rudest in the room. But if no one's being rude, if no one's being loud, if there's no noise, they just get on with their work. So I would have teaching assistants and whatever come to my door. I'm here to support Daniel. I'm like, Daniel who? I'm like, Daniel Baker. I'm like, you must have the wrong Daniel Baker because this guy doesn't make any noise in this class.
Gosh.
And they'd be like, no, he's severely ADA. And then they'll look at him and like, he's just doing his work. And he's like, yeah, I need you to leave. Like, he's just looking at it like, I need you to get out of here. I don't need any attention in this class. So I was like, nah, you can't. So I'm telling the teaching assistant, you can't be in here. You're just gonna, if you're gonna try and translate what I'm gonna say, that assumes that you can explain maths better than me, which you can't. And if you're talking, that means you're gonna be the only person talking in my room other than me. I don't need that noise.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna serve no purpose here. Teaching assistants were just like, great, I've got a free lesson. Students were like, I'm gonna learn, you know, because no one's disrupting. I can actually ask a question, it'll get answered. I can put my hand up and he'll come over. There's no behavior issues. So yeah, teaching was easy. I used to leave my class and just go walk around the school. Like, obviously I had to lead up to that. You know, first of all, I'd just stand by the door. Then I'd stand out of sight, wait till someone said anything. Gregory, why are you talking? You're gonna have to see me after school 50 minutes, damn. So they're like, so then they learned, if I can't see him, doesn't mean that he's not there. So then I could just leave and just go down to the next part of the building, come back, and they behaved. And then the other teacher's like, where did you go? Your class was absolutely silent. I was like, yeah, that took work. It's like I put work into that. So yeah, you know, it was, I think that's why I wanted that challenge of, let me go to the States and see how hard it can be. And
And then you got softened up over there.
it wasn't even that I got softened up. I was just able to just be,
Okay.
I was still that person. And that kind of confused them as well, because that whole thing that you used to see about, oh, he's on the basketball team, so give him an A, that kind of thing. I used to get that. Like, he's on the football team, so he needs to be passing so that he can, I'm like, yeah, well, like, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't changing grades. Like, he needs to pass my, and they'd be like, why is this guy? And the excuse was always, it was hilarious. The excuse was always, he's from the UK. Like, he doesn't understand. They were like, what? So yeah, that was quite funny. That was their excuse for everything. Like, I don't like to hear the N word in my class. They're like, why not? He's from the UK. Oh, okay. So.
And they respected it and
Yeah.
adhered to it. That's interesting.
They're nice. Children are generally nice. I've never really met like some Damien Omen child. I've never met an evil child. I've met children who got away with stuff for time, but then, you know, you just say, this is how it is. I was even tutoring somebody this Friday, just gone. And his mum came in and said, oh, he didn't break anything, did he? And I looked at her and I was like, why would he break something? And then the student was he decided to get smart and he was like, yeah, mum, why would I break anything? So she was like, oh yeah, no reason. I was like, okay. So yeah, students are generally, you know, they want attention, they want to do well. They like being praised. And my version of, like, you know, praise was, you don't get cussed. So if you don't hear anything from me, great.
I was just going to ask you, what was like some of your unique teaching methods, you know, that kind of drove the important lessons in your students?
Nah, I think I learned, I didn't really have anything unique. What helped me more than anything was just my classes were perfectly silent. That was the main thing. So I was able to teach, they were able to listen, they were able to ask questions, so we were able to progress. Unique teachers. I think what I had over a lot of maths teachers was that I was never that great at maths. I don't even like maths. So and what I think I've learned,
and you became a math teacher?
That was my way into school.
But you didn't like math?
Nah. Like I said, I'd already done it, so I knew it was pointless. I'd done it to a high level, and I was like, yeah, I'm not using this in real life.
So you didn't like math, you became a math teacher, and you taught students. I'm confused. Like, how did you teach something you don't like?
It's that reason, because I was never that good at it. I know exactly where people are going to trip up. I know exactly what they're going to find difficult. I know where to slow down, where to speed up. I know where to link things, because you're going to need that, because you're not going to just get that. Like how anybody who's gifted at something, I find that they're generally bad teachers, because they just can't figure out why you don't get it the way they get it.
It's true.
So with me not getting it that well, I was able to I was like, this is where most people are going to trip up. So I'd slow down.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, okay, does everybody get it? If you get it, then teach it to me. And then, yeah, we'd be in a good place.
That is true.
So
I'm just trying to think of things that I'm able to do and people ask me to teach them. Like, I don't think I can teach you because, yeah, I get you. Okay. So, I remember you were saying that the education system was created by the Prussians. Did I say that right? Prussians. There you go, Prussians. Where am I going?
yeah.
And the reasons why that was. What kind of changes do you think are needed to make the education system fit for use in 2024 and beyond?
It's too much because you just got to scrap. You got to start from scrap. You got to decide what's your goal.
Yeah, you did say that before.
Yeah, you got to decide what's your
so
goal.
no adjustments can be made to it
No, you can't.
whatsoever.
No, any adjustments that you make, like I suppose my big issues are that no matter what I do, I've still got to get them to be able to pass the GCSE. There's no point saying this system is rubbish and whatever, but their life is going to be determined on what grades they've got. So you still got to be able to get them past that. So I've never made it my issue to say I'm going to solve that problem.
Of course.
It's a big problem, and there's people who will do that. I do like when I run into people who are just like, yeah, I don't like that, and then they just create something else. Like, I like that. I got irritated with the why parents would do things which were not in the best interest of their children.
Such as?
Like there's just that many things. All right, so the most obvious one is parents saying, I can't get my child to do their homework. That's the thing. That's the big thing at secondary school level. I can't get my child to do their homework. And so I would just run through these things where it's just like, okay, so where are they supposed to do their homework? Like, okay, in their bedroom. Oh, they got their own room. Okay. Is there a TV in their room? Yeah. Is there something to play music on their room, like some kind of sound system? Yeah, there is. Got a games console? Yep. Got a computer? Yep. They got a mobile phone that they take in their room? Yeah. Okay, so why are you asking them to do their homework in a room that's designed to have a break from doing work? Like, that's literally a leisure lounge that you've created for them. And then you're saying, go do home. If I wanted someone to do work, I wouldn't send them to Disneyland to do it. Like, I'd have an empty room where there's nothing else to do but your work. So why did you, as a parent, add all of those things to stop them doing work? I never thought of it like that. I was like, well, start thinking, like, take all of them things out of the room. That's why the children don't like me talking to their parents. But like, all of them things, get them out of their room and then put them in a place where you can monitor it. And if you're giving them a smartphone, like, replace it with a brick phone. Like, there's no need for them to be having access to everything.
Like that,
when the only reason why you said you gave it to them is because you wanted to keep them safe and you wanted to be able to communicate with them. So why give them something that costs £400 or £900 and then think that they're more safe? If you gave them £900 in money, would you be worried about their safety walking home?
100%.
Right. So don't give them a phone. It's so logical that I don't even understand why parents are not getting it. I just wanted them to have the same thing everyone else is getting. I was like,
and that's the same thing with a lot of things, though, with trainers, with designer clothes and all these kinds.
See, I didn't grow up with that kind of money, so
Neither
I
did
grew up with what was it? We used to call them trainers.
Oh gosh.
You're like, so you're like, why are you wearing trainers? You're like, why are you calling trainers? Because if you had a dad, you'd have more money to be able to get some decent trainers.
Yeah, I remember them days, for real.
Adidas 4-stripe.
Ugh.
All of them. Where'd you get them in the market?
Do you remember Matchstick? Was it Matchstick, Gola,
Galini,
and like, Pony?
Yeah.
LA Gear, when LA Gear wasn't cool.
Right. All of them. So, yeah, man. Yeah, that's boy. Yeah, what kind of things do I need to talk? That's why I wrote the book. Like, it literally was.
Which one?
Gifted at primary, failing by secondary. Do I need to hold it up?
Yes, please.
This book. Actually, it's only available on Amazon now because there was too many in my house. So yeah, you can buy it from Amazon. But I started off, I did a parents' evening. I remember it's clear. I did a parents' evening just before Easter holidays. And I was just getting vexed. I was just getting more and more vexed because I was saying to parents the same things. I was telling each parent, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Well, why did you stop doing that? And I was like, okay, what I'm going to do for the next parents' evening that was just after Easter break was I'm going to have like a sheet of paper. I'm going to give out a sheet of paper to all the black parents. And it's just going to have like 10 points on it. Like, don't do this or do this or don't stop doing this or whatever. And so I started typing that out. As soon as we broke up for the holidays, I started typing that out. But then the more I typed, the more vexed I got. And then the more vexed I got, the more I typed. And by the end of the Easter holidays, 2 weeks, I'd written that book. Like, it was just that. It was just, when I finished, I was like, yeah, I can't give that out at a parents' evening now. Like, I need to actually, I need to publish this. So yeah, it took me, because I run into other people who call themselves authors. I don't even call myself an author. But I run into people who are just like, yeah, I've been trying to write this book for like 4 years. And I was like, how long did it take you to write your book? And I didn't even want to speak to them because I'm going to upset them. I'm like, yeah, I wrote it in 2 weeks. Actually, it was under 2 weeks because, yeah, I still wanted to have the weekend free before I went back to school. So, yeah. But yeah, anger is a good motivational tool if you use it the right way. Anger, shame. Yeah, man. Shame fixed up. Any boy who's been cussed out and say, you stink of BO after PE, gosh. That sorts out their hygiene, blah, blah, their routines. Shame's good. You can use shame and embarrassment.
I know you said like the school system needs to be scrapped.
Look what's in your head.
It's you did that. At least consider what you think the most pressing change needs to be in schools like right now.
Expectations from parents, number one. So when I was at school, you know how old you have to be before you start saying things like when I was at school? I'm just old. So, but everyone came out with about 10, 11, 12 GCSEs as standard because you had to do both Englishes, English language, English literature.
Yeah.
You had to do maths. You had to do triple science. You didn't call it triple science. You just had to do biology, chemistry, and physics. That's 6 already. You had to do, if it was in a faith school, you had to do RE or RS. Mm-hmm. So that's 7. You had to do, you had the choice of whether you did history or geography. That was your choice. So it was like, okay, so everyone did humanities, but you thought, oh, I get to choose. So you're doing one of those. You had the choice of whether you did French or German or Spanish if your school was kind of, newish or whatever. So it wasn't
art or CDT.
Yeah, you got, so everyone, like, that's like 9 we're looking at already there. Then you got like 3 options on top of that. So you're talking about 11, 12. Now it's considered to be success if you get 5 GCSEs between grade 4, grade 5 and a 9. I was like, so first thing that needs to be fixed up is expectation. Any teacher that tells you, oh, they're on track for 5 GCSEs is actually insulting you. That's a violation. You need to be offended if someone says that to you. If you're a parent, even they say, oh, they're on track for 5, you're like, I ain't doing my job. Or I failed, you failed, and my child is failing. So 10 should be minimum. It doesn't take 5 years to do a GCSE. That's another thing.
I heard you say that. Please, can you?
Well, I think I was always
elaborate?
teaching because I had this mentality of I want to teach the black students. Unfortunately, most of the black students were in the bottom sets. So I was always, I'm going to teach the bottom sets. Most teachers don't want to go anywhere near the bottom sets. So as far as me working in a school is concerned, everyone was happy. I was teaching the people that I wanted. They were not having to teach the people that they didn't want to teach. So everyone was cool. I then had a new head of maths come in and say, I'm going to make everything equal. So everyone's going to teach a bottom set, a second set, a middle set, a top set, whatever. Everyone's going to have one of each. So that year, I got my first ever top set. It was a year 7 class. Now, I'm used to giving homework. And then when I say homework's due today, which is the next day, they're going to come back and say, oh, do you know what, sir? Like, you never guess what happened, yeah? Like, and, then I hear like a whole word of excuses and then I have to like break them down in front of them. And then I have to be like, the next time you lie to me, these are going to be the consequences. Plus you wasted my time. I want that time back and all that kind of stuff. So the first time I had a year 7 class top set, I said, okay, who hasn't done their homework? And no one put their hand up. I was like, okay, maybe you didn't hear me. All right, hands up who did do their homework. And everyone put their hand up. And I was like, okay, maybe this is just what teaching top sets is like because I've never done it. So then I just like, all right, you think you're nice? Try this. And then I just kept doing it and they kept doing it. And because they were year 7, I think they just had the mentality of this is what big schools like.
Yeah.
So I kept giving them stuff. They kept completing it. And by the end of the 2nd term, we were already using GCSE books.
Goodness.
Because I kept upping whatever and they just kept matching it. So then I was like, okay, again, children are, they'll fit the container. They're like liquids. They'll fit the container that they're put in. So you get a strict teacher who's saying, you got to do this or I'm going to kill you. They're going to do it. So yeah, I went to the head teacher and I said, we're already using GCSE books. Can I enter them for a GCSE at the end of the year? So it's like it's a set class, but at the same time, it's set in, we were the worst school in the borough. Like Lewisham Borough, we was at that time.
Crofton's?
Yeah, Crofton, we was the worst school in the borough. They had never got a good for Ofsted, never. So I've got top set of a bottom set school. So it's not really that much of a top set. So yeah, she said, yeah, we did it. End of year 8, everyone passed. Like 26 children. And that's because we kept having an inflow and outflow, children leaving, moving in, coming in and whatever. So even though I was teaching 32 children, only 26 were there from that time, from the beginning to the end, to be able to do the GCSE. All of them passed. 4 of them got Bs and 1 of them got an A. And that's at 12 years old. So,
Gosh.
So at that time, I'm just like, there's no, 5 years. What do you expect me to be doing for 5 years with a top set or middle set?
How are you able to produce those results and other teachers aren't necessarily able to? What is it that makes what you're doing different?
The good thing about being a teacher is that your classroom is your world. Once you close the door, it's your rules, your world. No one else can enter.
But not every teacher feels that way, though.
Say again?
Not every teacher feels that way, though.
Yeah, I can't really talk about
Fair enough.
Yeah, but the bad thing about being a teacher is that you generally don't get to see other teachers doing their thing. So when you ask the question, what is it you was doing that other people were doing? I had no idea what anybody else was doing. I would only hear what the students were saying. So I had, I remember I had a class, this class was genius. I didn't even think of it. I was teaching them. They complained that I was giving them too much homework. So, and then I didn't even remember this until this girl, she sent me a message on Facebook years after she'd left, and then she recited it, and the only reason why I know it was me is because it sounded like what I would do, because I was like, I don't remember doing this. But she said the whole class were fuming for ages because that class was they were like a middle set, and they were getting homework every day, and the top set weren't getting half as much homework as them. And she said that someone basically, I don't know, they all had a meeting and decided someone needs to speak up and say something. And they said, how comes we get homework every single day? And I said, well, no, this is what she said. I think she got it a bit wrong, but this is what she said. She said that I wrote on a quote on the board. I said, those who are behind in the race of life must forever remain behind or go faster than the ones who are in front. It's not exactly that, but she said that's what I wrote. And I was like, yeah, I didn't write that because I wouldn't have taken the time to write all of that and whatever. But I had quotes all over my room.
Yeah.
I had no maths up in my room because I don't like maths. So I had quotes and posters and beautiful pictures of African families and things that I want to see because that's my room and I have to live there for the whole day, every day. So I need nice surroundings. So, and Pythagoras' rule on that's not of any interest to me. So I don't want that on my room. So she was quoting a Garvey quote that I had up on my wall. And then she said, you went further than that. You explained it by saying, she said, I took out 2 cars, like I had cars in my pocket. But she said, I took out 2 cars. I think what I did was I told 2 people to stand up and basically act this out. So I said, all right, you be in front, you be behind, and I want you to walk that way. And they would walk at the same pace and the distance would stay the same between them. And I say, right, that's the top set and this is you. Top set are going to be ready for their GCSEs. We know that because they're top set. But you, when they hit that time where it's GCSEs now, you're going to be behind. I need you to be ready. If I even give you the same amount of work as a top set, all right, you're still going to be behind come GCSE day. The only thing that makes sense, the only thing that's logical is that if you're top set and you're bottom set and you're trying to be ready the same time they're going to be ready, you have to go faster than them to catch them up. That's the only thing that's logical.
Yeah.
And that tells you how school systems should be set up. Bottom sets should get more work than top sets. That's the only thing that's logical. Otherwise, how can you catch up? But what actually happens? The exact opposite. Bottom sets get less work. In fact, bottom sets sometimes don't even get any homework.
Yeah.
So the only thing that can be happening is that gap's growing.
Yeah.
So I said to the students, look, I gave you like 10 questions. Let's say I gave you 10 questions. I never give you 10 questions. You're getting at least 30 questions off of me. But let's say I gave you 10 questions. There's 30 of you in here. That's 300 questions that I have to mark every day because I'm giving you homework every day. If you don't want to do this homework as a class, just say so. Because 300 questions per day I'm marking just for you. And I've got more than one class. So you don't want to do the work. I'm the one who's going to benefit the most from not doing the work. So if you don't want to do it, just say so. And then they came back the next day and they said, no, it's all right. You can keep giving us the work. Because they were just like, children don't want to fail ultimately. So yeah, she recited that story to me. And I was just like, that makes sense, because why would I be doing like 3,000 questions per night? And the only reason was because I was single at the time. I was like, if I've got a girlfriend, I ain't doing all of that work when I go home. I've got other things to be doing. So I was like, yeah, I've got no children and I'm single. So yeah, I'll put everything into you guys. But if you don't appreciate it, just say the word. Just say the word and I'll stop. And they were like, no, actually, this is a good thing. We'll keep going.
I think you mentioned to me outside this conversation that you was head of year for only black students.
Yeah, that was great. The same head teacher, brilliant head teacher. She teaches up in a school in North London. I think it's Northumberland School. I might be wrong. But when I disappeared, it was supposed to be for a sabbatical year to Atlanta. It then turned into 2 years. Mm-hmm. And when I came back, she was just not connecting with an unusually high proportion of black students in that year group. And she had an assistant who's like the pastoral manager, another white lady. And there was just a big disconnect. So they were doing their job and they were doing it well, but it could have been a lot better. And so she said, can you come in and be like a co-head of year or pastoral manager, whatever? She's like, but your target group will just be the black students. And I was like, you want me to be head of year for black students? And she was like, effectively, yeah. And I was like, deal.
This is a white teacher.
No, this is a black head teacher.
Okay.
Black head teacher. Yeah, I should have said that. So I was like, deal, because that's the whole reason why I wanted to be in school anyway. I was like, just to work with the black students. And obviously I'm a maths teacher, so I'm teaching core subjects to all classes anyway. But I was like, you want to make me a head of year just for the black students? I'm like, that's like my dream job. So now she could do kind of like the tasks that need to be done as a head of year. The pastoral manager, she can focus on the white students, and she's an amazing woman. So like she's doing a great job anyway. I can now focus my attention and do what I do with the black students because when I used to go around to students' houses, it doesn't matter where they're from, I'm going around to your house if you're giving me grief. But then if we have a holidays, I can't have a holiday like a 2-week holiday and you not do any work. So you've got to do work in the holidays, because otherwise that's more work for me. I've now got to reteach you when you get back all the stuff that you forgot. So just because of that laziness, like I'm not trying to reteach you, so you got to work over the holidays as well. So I'm going around to all of the students and giving them work over the holidays. Now, when I go to a white student's house, sometimes they'll greet me and it's fine. But a lot of the times I was getting like, yeah, can I help you? I'm like, I'm your teacher's, I'm your student's teacher, maths teacher. And they're like, yeah, should you be here kind of thing? Whereas I go to a black student's house and they're like, come in, sit down. Do you want a drink? Do you want something to eat? Whatever. So I always got love when I went to a black student's house. So I always knew that was going to be a safe bet for me. So I could go to all of my, and when I was head of that year, I went to all of their houses.
That's heavy.
So that was, I think it was 107 students. So, and it was 180, 90-ish students altogether. So it was a high proportion of black students that we had in that year. So I was welcome at all their houses. Some of the parents gave me permission to beat their child. They're like, if they get out of line, like you can do whatever you like. And the Turkish parents as well, they had this phrase, and I don't know what it was, like in their language, but effectively it means their bones are your bones. So basically you can be me. We've actually got the same phrase. The Latin is in loco parentis. So basically, whilst they're at school, you're their parent.
Yeah.
And to answer that question of what was it that I did that was different to other parents, it might be that every child I had, I would treat like you're my child. What would I do if you were my child?
Yeah.
And that would be what I'm going to do for you then. So that might be different, because as well, you got those teachers who are just like, I'm just doing it because I've got to pay my bills. I'm doing it just because I couldn't do anything else. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even like children. You got all of these teachers in there. So that put me in a small group of teachers, because I've met some amazing teachers in my time. And the ones who are really, really good are the ones who, they just care. They just, it seems so simple, but it's just like, I actually care about what happens to you, kind of thing. So yeah, that was my best time. That was one of my best years.
That's beautiful.
That was my best years.
I think on the basis of like even that concept of treat like the children as though you're only having the permission from the parents to be able to do that. As you said, there are some teachers that don't like children. So clearly, the parents really appreciated the work and the efforts he was putting into their children.
Any parent that hears like there's a teacher who's going to go out of their way to help my child, they're automatically in love with. So that's why any old school parent, whether they're from Vietnam, China, Pakistan or whatever, they loved an old school teacher who was just like, yeah, they're acting the way that my parents used to act. I like this guy. So it would always be like, and then that became a problem for the child because they're like, because they're used to playing people off. Oh, that teacher hates me and blah, blah. But now you've got a teacher, they're like, I like that teacher. Whatever you want to do with my child, you can do. So now the child's like, wait, the teacher's got that power against me? The parents got that power against me? I've got nowhere to move. I can only achieve. Like, I literally have no other options. So yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want. Whereas when you're playing people off of each other, parents even are hilarious because, you know, the child that behaves at home, they then hear a story that this child is so disruptive and the parents are like, that's not my child. Must be something wrong with you because that's not how my child behaves. Child's just like, yeah, this is going exactly how I want it to go. And so, yeah, when it's like, I show up at your house and I'm sitting in your front room and your parents there and you're there, I'm saying, try and lie now with all of us looking at you. Then it's just like, oh, I've got nothing to say. So it just makes my life easy. And then you've got older brothers and older sisters. And so, you know, they're just like, oh, you don't want to mess with Mr. Mayers. So you're year 6, now you come into year 7. Who you got for maths? Mr. Mayers. Oh, you got Mr. Mayers. Oh my gosh, my days, bro. You better not say nothing. So they'll just blow it all out of proportion. So by the time they arrive for their first lesson, they're already scared. They're already scared.
You don't have to work's all done for you already. If you could redesign the curriculum, I know we keep talking about this bit, but what subjects or skills would you prioritize to ensure that children are prepared for life beyond school?
So maths goes out the window and you only do finance. Like that's number one.
Yeah.
You only do, because the whole point of maths should be, if you don't have any money, to learn how you can get some money. And if you have money, to know how to manage your money so you never lose it. Or if you've got a decent amount of money, to grow it so that you and your family and the children that don't even exist yet will never have to worry about money ever again, which is kind of like how other people operate and we just don't. So, and the way that I explain that to children is that I say, you know, because children are generally kind-hearted as well. So I say, if you was really good at computing and you kind of owned your own school, what would you teach to a really high level? And the children always say computing. If I know computing, then I'd make sure that everyone got computing to it. And I was like, yeah, that's nice. You're doing that because you're a nice person. That's not how society works. Society works in the opposite to that. Society would say, if I'm really good at computing and you know nothing about computing, I'm going to make sure that while you're in school, you learn no computing at all. So that by the time you need to know computing, you have to come to me. And I've got guaranteed income for the rest of my life. And I'll make sure that I'll teach my children computing so that they've got guaranteed income for the rest of their life. So that's the mentality that they need to understand. You're in a school that's not designed for you to do well once you get out of school. It's pretty much just designed to keep you busy until you get to a certain age, and then you can go and work for the people who actually did get an education.
Yeah.
Once you tell a child that, once you tell most children that, they're like, And then the next question is an obvious one. What should I know? What am I supposed to know? Which is what you just asked. What would your curriculum? So yeah, maths goes out the window and I'll be teaching finances. Before that, I'd find out who you are. Like the main goal of like year 7 would be, I'm trying to find out who you are as an individual. What's your spirit? You know what I mean? And then I can tailor your education to meet that. So that, and obviously children change. Like after 3 months, they'd be like, that used to be my favorite thing. Now I hate it. So it
so
then
more
has to be
child-led.
Yeah, it has to be flexible.
Not the child making decisions, but being aware of the child holistically and working with that.
Yeah, and giving them a whole range of stuff because you want them to have as many experiences as
Yes.
possible. You want
Let them try different things.
right,
Yeah.
so that you get, you want them to live in different places. So you want to have them go into different countries, and so yeah, it's there's loads. If you just focus on maths or you just focus on English, then you could talk for, you could write a doctoral thesis on just what I would do with English. And I suppose with English, it would start being, you're going to read loads of stuff that was written by people who look like you and had the same experience of you, so that you've got a shared experience of their understanding of the world, which makes you just go, that makes sense. I get it the way that you say it, because every child's got a teacher that it's like, when they explain it, I get it.
Yeah.
So,
And you can see their mistakes or whatever I hear you.
so you could do that with every subject. And then you got to decide what are the subjects, because what you want to do, because there used to be this video that used to go on YouTube, it was ages old, it's called Shift Happens. And one of the things that it was saying there was children are going to be learning subjects that didn't even exist when you were in school. You're going to be training them for jobs that don't exist.
That paradigm shift, I think I saw that lecture, TED Talks, yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's loads of TED Talks that came out from it, but yeah, it was, we actually need to teach skills that are transferable rather than teaching subjects, because we don't even know what's going to be there 2 years from now, kind of thing. Like, I mean, I produced Black History calendars. 2 years ago, I remember paying an artist who used to work for Marvel £800 to do one picture. Now I can get better work from AI producing that an image for £10, if that. Like, that's how much has shifted in 2 years. So who knows what jobs are going to be available or what jobs don't exist anymore. So you need to focus on what skills do I need them to have so that they can do any job or do most jobs, or that kind of thing. Which is that's a concept shift. So what you get in schools now, that doesn't provide that.
Yeah,
so,
it's not matching up to the times and what the future's going to be like. So I hear you.
Yeah, not fit for purpose.
Looking back, what do you think was the most invaluable lessons you learned during your teaching career, and how has it shaped your views on education now?
That's a good question. Because I had a conversation with one of my RE teachers. When I was head teacher in a West London school, it's just weird. We went out for a meal. He's a white teacher, but we went to a Caribbean restaurant for a meal, kind of end of the year kind of thing. I think it was Cotton's. And I looked at the menu and he looked at the menu. He's looking at it as a white guy thinking, there's not much on here that I know what it is or that I like, and it's probably all too hot for me. And I looked at the menu and I was like,
doesn't look like anything I'm used to eating.
I mean, it's Cotton's, innit? It's Caribbean restaurant. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just not feeling anything on here.
Fair enough.
So the waitress comes over and says, what can I get you? And I said to her, and because we was there in the middle of the day, because it was school, we'd finished half days, so the place is empty. So I said, where's the cook? And she said, he's downstairs. I was like, yeah, bring him. And so he came up with this attitude, like this black guy, like, what are you calling me for?
Yeah.
Like, you haven't got any food to be complaining about. What am I doing here? So I was like, do you know how to cook roti? And he goes, I'm a chef. Of course I know how to cook roti. And he goes, yeah, I'd like some roti, please. And he's like, you don't want anything that's on the menu? It's like, you're a cook, man.
Cook something.
Yeah, cook something, innit?
Bad
Cook
man.
me some roti. So he's like, that's going to take me about 45 minutes. And I was like, well, you ain't got anybody else here you know what I mean? It's like, everybody else, you can put their food in the oven, but we've got 45 minutes. We're here to just relax after. We've got time. Go cook me some roti. So I didn't say it like that, because obviously you don't want to be rude to someone who's going to mash up your food, right?
Yeah.
So, but basically I was just saying, what I mean? Like, we've got time. There's no one here. You ain't got nothing to do. Cook me some roti. So he went and cooked me some roti. And then the RE teacher said to me, I was looking at the menu and I didn't think there was anything here for me either. Like, he already ordered though. And he was like, it didn't occur to me to ask for something that's not on the menu. And I was like, it didn't occur to me that I was limited by what was on the menu. Mm-hmm. Like, and so in terms of what did I learn, I think I learned everything afterwards, because I used to just do things that no one else was doing. But because I didn't know what any other teachers were doing, because
Yeah.
I was just in my world, I didn't know that it wasn't normal or it
Possible,
wasn't.
yeah.
And it's only afterwards where I found out nobody else did that. Or like there was some students who, like former students from Crofton, they got together and they were saying, oh yeah, is Mr. Mayor's coming, and like I didn't even know about the event, so I only found about it afterwards. And so a teacher was telling me, oh, they're reminiscing about that time when you did an assembly, because as a head of year you got to do assemblies every week, and you told all of the white students to leave, and I said, I don't remember doing that, and then the person said, you said all the non-African students, you can leave now and go to your lessons. I want to talk to and I was like, that sounds like me. I would say non-African. I wouldn't say white students, because that kind of does this. I'm going to prioritize. So I'm going to say, if you're not African, then you don't qualify. So when you said all the non-African students leave, and they had to leave, and I remember planning it when they mentioned it. I remember planning it now, because I was like, I remember doing that, knowing that all of the Asian teachers and the white teachers, first period, they had a lesson. So they were, and they're inner. They want to know. Well, I want to know what you're going to tell them. I was like, but you can't stay because you got to go and teach your lesson. So they all had to leave, and so I was there by myself. But I have no clue what it was I was talking about or what it was I wanted to say to them. I just knew that I wanted to talk to black students, and a great thing happened then as well. I had 3 mixed race students in that year group, and 2 of them, they didn't move. Like it's like, yeah, I'm staying. And one student was like, I don't know whether I'm supposed to, whatever. And 2 black students just like, you're black, man, stay here. Like, you're staying. And I remember that made my day. I was like, that guy knows that it's not an exclusion thing. Like you can sit in both camps. Yeah. You can be in both worlds.
Where you feel,
you know what I mean? You are
and
both.
You're welcome.
You're not one or the other. You don't have to choose.
Yeah.
You're not neither. So that made me smile inside, obviously, because I couldn't be smiling in front of them. But yeah. So those kind of things, like I'm like, they remembered that, and I was like, yeah, I don't think another teacher would do that. Would say, I only want to talk to.
They wouldn't have an opportunity to, though.
Of course they would, because they're heads of years. They can do what they like.
You?
Of course. That's the thing. Is like they're not aware of the power that you have.
Yes,
I did know that if my grades of my students were dropping,
then you can speak
then
to
I would
them
have
on
been,
that basis.
yeah, I would have been on discipline or whatever. They wouldn't have allowed all the stuff that I did. But yeah, whilst my grades were, they was like, let him keep doing what he's doing. Because I knew that I was the best math teacher in that department, or I was got the best results. So I had more freedom, I think, than anybody else. So yeah, but if I weren't doing,
teacher.
Say again?
He was an exceptional teacher.
It was only teaching maths. And the interesting thing was that any students that I meet from back in the day never thank me about, the way that you taught maths. They thank me about anything else that I was saying. They're saying, the lessons that you were trying to teach us are like, I didn't get them then, or I only got some of it then. They never talk about maths because it's just not that important.
Gosh.
But I know that I've always run into students who'll be like, I've never understood maths, but when you taught it, I get it. I don't even know why. So yeah.
Okay, so what advice would you give to current teachers who are struggling to engage their students or deal with the challenges of modern classrooms?
Read my book.
Which one is that? The first one still?
Yeah, so this is about the things that this is how you get parents on side. This is how you get your parents to help you out. So that was how you avoid kind of feeding into the black achievement gap or the black attainment gap.
Is there any key strategies you can? I want them to read the book, but
it's really not that difficult. It's
okay.
It's like I broke it into 7 sections. I said there's 7 areas that you can focus on. If you deal with those areas, you've got most of your problems kind of covered. So first one is just about communication. So an example of that would be like at primary school. And what I do is I broke it into, this is what happens at primary school level, this is what happens at secondary school level, and this is why it's, this is the mistake you're making, and this is how you fix it. So 3 sections. And the fix it section is a biggest section. So, because I don't like people talking about problems and not coming up with solutions. It's like wasting time. So all parents, a lot of parents will complain about the lack of communication between them and their children. But at primary school level, if you ask a child, what did you do at school today? They're going to say, first we did this, then we did this, then we made this, and then I made this picture. Oh, that's lovely. And then so-and-so fell over in the and then we was all laughing. And they're going to go on forever. Like, you better be ready to be comfortable. And like, most parents were smart. They'll ask that in the car and they're like, yeah, is it? Oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah.
It's true.
And just, they're going to go on and on and on about everything that happened at school. Secondary school parents now, how was school? It's all right. It's fine. Like, one word answers. So you know what it was at primary school level. You know what's coming. So why did you allow it to? And then obviously the main thing is, so what's the solution? What do I do? All right, so the next time you ask your child how was school, they might be 14 or whatever, and they give you a one-word answer, you're like, oh, it's fine. That's it. That's all you got for me? Fine. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to write me a 3-page essay on everything that happened at school today. And they'll be like, no, I'll tell you. No, you had your chance. I gave you a chance to tell me. You didn't want to tell me. You want to give me a one-word answer. That's all I'm worth. That's fine. You don't want to tell me. That's fine. 3-page essay. And if you're 1 word short, you're going to write the whole thing again. Next time you ask them the next day, how was school? They're going to have something to say. But they're children, so they're going to try and get out. So they're going to say more, but they're going to try and say just a little bit more. And we're like, thanks for telling me a little bit more information. Go write me a 3 pages. But you didn't tell me enough. And you just keep doing it until they realize that when you say, how was school today? They've got to take off their blazer. They've got to put down their bag. They've got to sit down, get comfortable and actually talk to you. Then you can tell them you don't need to write me an essay no more. But then you'll find out that the day that you forget to ask them, they're coming
to tell you.
Hey, don't you even care what happened at school today? Because children love attention. They want you to, you know what I mean? It's all an act. It's all an act. This is how they think they're supposed to act. But they're children. They want that attention. So that's just like one area of communication. Obviously, there's communication between you and the teacher. There's communication between, you and your child. There's communication between the child and the teacher.
And between parents.
There you go. So like, that's one bit of one section of the first section. And then you look at peer relationships. And then you look at, let's say, discipline and those kind of things, setting boundaries. So I've kind of focused on 7 areas. And if you can kind of not even master, but if you can kind of get the grips on those areas, most of your problems are gone. And that's before you even deal with institutional racism. So I knew that I didn't want to deal with such a big topic in one go. So I wrote that book then. And then in the second book, then I was kind of focusing on high achievement. That's when I dealt with institutional racism and other stuff as well. So this is how you get the top students. So your child, first of all, the aim is make sure your child isn't one of those bottom students who just is heading for exclusions or whatever. Make sure that they're not an underachiever. Then the second book was just about, okay, you got them average. This is how you make them the top. And I thought, stupidly, that if I give every black parent a step-by-step guide to guarantee this is how you're going to make your child top grade student, I thought I'd be a millionaire. I'm still waiting. I'm 1,000 there so far. So one step at a time, I suppose.
Hopefully today. Did you want to show the second book?
Yeah. So the first
Let
one's
people
called
know where they can get your book.
Gifted at Primary, Failing by Secondary. That one's only available on Amazon.
And this one's available.
This one's available on my website, Sailing Through Secondary, Considering Uni. And considering uni, don't mean you have to go to uni, because university is not for everybody.
I love to stress that point, because whenever I say that, people think I'm trying to discourage people from going to uni, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not for everybody. Yeah.
And it's not for every course. Like, if you're a graphic designer, then you should stay the hell away from university, because what you will learn, think about how long it took the teachers to learn what it is that they're going to teach you at university. That's already outdated.
Yeah.
From the moment you step in, that's already outdated. So certain subjects, there's no point. Architecture, you got to go university. Solicitor, you got to go university. Doctor, you got to go university. There's certain things where you just can't get out of it. You have to go university in order to take that path to get there. But there's some topics where it's just like, there's absolutely no point. It's actually going to be to your detriment, because now you're going to be learning stuff that's outdated, and you've got 60 grand debt. Like, that's just not worth it.
Yeah.
That's illogical.
So in your second book, you focus on like going through secondary and considering university, focusing on high achievement. What are the main differences between avoiding underachievement and striving for high achievement for black students?
Mentality and parental engagement. Parental engagement is almost everything, to be honest. I was tutoring somebody like, maybe I shouldn't bring that up. No, I'm not going to bring that up.
Tell me off camera.
Yeah. So, yeah, the main difference between private schools and state schools is that you're paying, and you're paying a lot of money, generally speaking. If you pay a lot of money for anything, you want your money's worth. And if you're getting your money's worth, then that means that you're going to be engaged. You're like, what'd you learn at school today? I'm paying for this. Like, this is costing me like a lot. So what did you learn? Prove to me that you're learning it. Like, teach me. Like, you know, you want some value for money. So, and secondary schools, where state schools, it's kind of like, this is just where you're supposed to go. I've got things to do. I don't even really want to know what's going on at school, but I don't want to hear any trouble. Like, that's pretty much it. As long as there's no drama, as long as you don't make me work, like I have to come off of my work to now have a meeting, then, you know what I mean? I'm kind of happy with what. So engagement is the separator. That's a massive thing. So my first book really is just about, this is how you engage, and this is how you keep engaging. Because a lot of parents, even when it's like the homework goes from primary school to secondary school level, they're like, I can help you at primary school, but secondary school level,
Yeah.
I'm not engaged anymore. Like, I can't help you. It's too hard for me. But then your strategy just needs to change. All right, then it needs to be, I'm not helping you anymore. I'm helping you by getting you to teach me what you learned. Because in order for you to teach, you got to explain it. And then students being students, they'll be like, yeah, I understand it, but I just can't explain it. It's like, you're lying. You're lying. If you can't explain it, then you don't know it. Or you just don't want to explain it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be consequences if you don't explain it. That's all. Do you want those consequences? No, it's all right, I'll explain it. Yeah, go on then.
So what's the one thing you wish every black parent knew about navigating the
history.
UK system?
They just got to learn it. They've got to do an African World Studies course. And now there's
Every parent.
Every black parent. And because it makes all the difference. It changes everything. It's because every other community is not getting lied to the way that we're getting lied to. It's like creaming your skin. It's like because they got that phrase, black don't crack. But as black people, we know that, well, we've been creaming our skin from birth. So
That's why
you know
I
what I mean? Like, you learned that cream is important at age 30.
Yeah.
It was too late for you by then. But that's why your skin looks mashed up. So
Ready?
yeah. So like, if we've been creaming our skin since birth, there's no cream that you can put on the market where we're like, oh, I've seen the difference. It's
Yeah.
amazing. But if you've never creamed your skin, and then you cream your skin, you're gonna have that. Oh my
See the
gosh!
difference.
Like, if you've got dishes that have never been washed,
You're sucking all them nutrients in where they
do you know what I mean? Like, and then you wash it, you're like, I never knew this dish was white underneath all of that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and the thing is, parents don't understand that every other community is being fed their history and their culture and their traditions and their, you know what I mean? All of that stuff is being fed to them through two main legs or pillars. One is their language. The culture is embedded in their language. And the other is their religion.
Yeah.
Their culture is embedded in their religion. But for black people, our language is English, mainly, and our religion is Christianity or Islam.
Yeah.
So we're not getting those things which every other community
Naturally gets without putting their name or their culture title on it. It just happens.
from birth.
Whereas we have to put black on it for us to
Yeah.
understand it's for us. And then
Right.
it makes it a bit more challenging in some way.
So the same way that, and the thing is,
Yeah.
because I will say to people, like, how you learn in your history, like, even when we're doing even when I was doing projects with students in the class, I'd focus it back to their history and their culture. And it works on every student. It's because black students have never had it, the impact is the same as white people it's like, whoa! So you want to have that really big impact on a black child, you connect them to their history. So I'm teaching a core subject, maths. So I would always have parents saying, maths and English are like the two most important subjects, and my child is not doing well in maths. What do I need to do? Do I need to get a tutor or something like that? I'm like, before you pay any money, how are they learning black history? And they're like, no. I said maths. And I said, I heard you. You didn't hear me. You want to have an impact, not just in maths, on all of their subjects, you connect them or you reconnect them to their black history. How are they learning black history? And then it's just like, well, we're not actually, they used to go to Saturday school, but now and I'm just like, you need to somehow get that. And every parent now doesn't really have an excuse, because the best teacher of African world studies in the world, who's Robin Walker, has an online course that anybody can tap into that. So there's no excuses now. And if you don't have a Saturday school that's nearby, and the whole purpose of a Saturday school is to get your maths and English and science, but you get the Black history. That's the most important part. So if you don't have one nearby, there's people who do that, like David Simon. He's got an online course that children can log into and do the Black. You can make your own Saturday school. Just every Black child needs to be doing school a minimum of 6 days a week.
And I never was graced with the opportunity to be in a Saturday school myself, but I would imagine, as well as learning Black history, you're in a room full of Black children and being taught by Black teachers, so
who love you,
who care about you and who love you and wish the best for you. So that definitely does change the dynamics of things. I'd assume.
My best teaching experience in a mainstream school was that year that I was head of year for just the Black students. My best teaching experience ever was all of the time that I was teaching it in our Kebulan Academy of Excellence Saturday school. So I was living in Catford and I was going to Leighton to teach that, because the environment there was so powerful and so nurturing. And we refer to the children as, like I just ran into a student last week, and I forgot his name. That's so rude.
Don't have to mention his name though anyway, but he wouldn't know who you're talking about if he sees this.
When he said his name, it wasn't clicking, because he was because he was a grown man talking to me, and I remember teaching a little boy. So he's like, it's so and so, and I was like, oh, Prince. So we called all the boys Prince, whatever your name was, and all the girls Princess, whatever your name was, and they would refer to me as Siba, meaning teacher, and then whatever my name was, but because I was in our Kebulan Academy, they were like, you can't have an English name. That can't work.
Gosh.
Can't have an English name. So we need to come up with a name that they can call you that's an African name that's appropriate for our setting. So that's how I started being known as Siba Yao. And so that's why the Yao is now kind of, I'm going to be running with that. But it was just a very powerful environment. And it would regularly happen where the children and their parents would come in saying, the teachers at school are giving them this low-level work, but they're doing this with you. Can you somehow give them something to let them know that they're not supposed to be doing this low-level work? And we had teachers who would say, we don't believe that they're doing this work. And so I'd have to give them all of their work and for them to be moved from the whatever set they were in into the top set.
Goodness.
Because they just didn't recognize.
Is that from their Kebulan school that you have to show them the work in the school?
Yeah.
Goodness me.
So, and anyone who's been to a Saturday school, like a decent Saturday school, I bet they can tell you about other children that had that same experience.
Yeah.
That's got to be standard. So even if you don't go to a Saturday school or have a Saturday school, start your own Saturday school. And I don't mean like have 30 children in your house or whatever. Just have your child and one other child who's got manners who you'll allow in your house. And that can be your Saturday school.
Yeah.
That can just them two are doing English, maths and some Black history with your supervision. You give them something to eat. Next weekend they're at their house or whatever. That's a Saturday school. But you've got to connect them to their culture. You've got to. Everyone else is doing it. And the fact that we're not, that's the reason why this Black attainment gap exists.
Thank you so much, Neil. We're coming to a close of our this episode. And please let our listeners know how they can get in touch with you. And obviously we already know how to get your book, but how they can get in touch with you.
So the first thing I did the first resource I made was not the book, because I already came from the background of having been taught African World Studies. So my first thing was I need to create an easy way to learn Black history, which is the Black Facts Almanac that we make every year. So the one last year, this is shiny, so it might reflect.
Right. And also if you have any events or stuff coming up, that'd be great.
Got no events. At the moment, we're just finishing off the new Black history calendar. So this, like I say, it's going to be a bit shiny. So basically the whole point is every single day of the year has got a different event that happened in Black history on it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Every single child can just look up their birthday and see what happened in, so what's one of the birthdays, a birthday of one of your children or?
They will kill me if I said I'll just...
Yeah, but they're not naming
18th of March.
Okay, 18th of March. So I would do this to a child. I'd be like, look up your birthday. So you find March, all March is here. On the 18th, I'll be saying, And then you've got to mix it up as well. So you can't just have like, I'm not actually interested in football, but you got to have, you know, different sports. You got to have different types of music. You got to adapt different fields, literature, science, and whatever. So you're trying to mix it up to give everyone a broad sense. So 18th of March happens to be Johnson B. Harry received Britain's. It's a black guy. Received Britain's highest award for gallantry. So he's the first living recipient of the Victoria Cross for nearly 40 years, and he got that in 2005. So that becomes something that you can then say,
significant to them to some degree.
Like whatever character that person's got, I must share a part of that.
Yeah,
there must be some connection.
That. Yeah.
And then it's a kind of starting point for, let me find out a bit more information about that person. You get a group of children in, and they all find out what happens on their birthday. You get an argument happen about whose event is the best, which is the type of argument you want, because now you're actually discussing Black history, which is more relevant. Somebody's going to have something that they remember that their parents said. Oh, but my dad said that Bob Marley did.
Yeah.
And so now you're getting them to discuss all of that conversation that you want to have. So yeah, that's how that works.
These are beautiful. Where can we get 2025's one?
This should be available, because this is going to be the first year that I do this on Amazon.
Okay.
Because it was just the space in, like, I'd have to print thousands and then keep them in my house.
Oh gosh.
And yeah, just got kind of tired of doing that. So going to be doing that through Amazon. So that should be available. It's always launched on the 1st of October. So it will be available from then. And it looks good this year. This year looks good. I'm very happy with how it looks, actually.
Awesome.
We're doing heroes in Black history, what they look like when they were about age 5.
Gosh.
So yeah.
That's really amazing. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get my copy.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and have you got an email address anyone can contact you with?
Yeah, sorry. So all of our stuff goes on the Raising Black Achievement site. So raisingblachachievement.com. If you want to contact me, it's info@raisingblachachievement.com. Phone numbers there on the site. Answer machines on the phone. And yeah, we're not really on. I mean, there's an Instagram.
Yeah.
But not really. And that's just because of who I am, unfortunately. I am learning. 2 years ago, I got my first mobile phone. I have a phone, but no one has the phone number. I don't make calls or receive calls on it. It's just really for using it for maps and taking videos of my boy. So yeah, the social media world is not one that I know anything about. And yeah, so I'm getting a team around me who's gonna cover that. But I'm never going to be living that life.
I appreciate that. I'm impressed that you've only just had a mobile phone 2 years ago. Like, that's just phenomenal. I wish I only had a phone 2 years ago.
That's been part of my motivation for not getting one, because every time I told somebody I haven't got a mobile phone, they're like, I wish I could live that life. So I was like, okay, well, why am I going to try and get one?
But you kind of slipped in a little bit, but just a little bit.
A little bit. There's one there. And anyway. I had to upgrade it as well, because they said, we don't support 3G anymore. I was like, I don't know what 3G is, but it's not good enough, apparently. Okay, all right, fine. So yeah, that's the life.
But anyway, Neil, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed spending time with us, sharing time.
I chat for a living, so it's all good.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care and be safe. Thank you.